Let's review Ragnarok Tactics for the PlayStation Portable. I will base my review on the North American version released in November 6, 2012. Please note that this game is not the same game as the mobile game, which is also confusingly called Ragnarok Tactics. Ragnarok Tactics is a strategy RPG that is loosely based on the popular Korean MMORPG Ragnarok Online, which was released in 2002 and is still playable today. As a disclaimer, this review will be heavily biased because I'm a huge fan of Ragnarok Online. I spent thousands of hours playing the MMO and hundreds more browsing databases and fiddling with the character calculator. Ragnarok Tactics was released extremely late in the PlayStation Portable lifecycle. It was one of the last games ever released on the PlayStation Portable. The game is stuck on the system and isn't available on another platform. The story of the game is rather mediocre and unmemorable. To be fair, the MMO Ragnarok Online also had a pretty weak and sparse story, so story isn't what makes the Ragnarok games amazing. In Ragnarok Tactics, there are 3 simultaneous routes that can be experienced in multiple playthroughs. 2 countries are at war, and the first route follows the story of one country, the second route follows the other country, and the third route follows a factionless militia. The story is divided into chapters, where each chapter has 3 different events that happen simultaneously, representing 3 routes, and you get to choose one of the events to advance the story. This means that each playthrough is not very long, because you're only playing less than 1/3 of the available missions. However, if you want, you could replay the game to see other parts of the story, to see what happened to the other factions at the same time. The gameplay is heavily inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics and other similar tactics games. For those who are new to the genre, you control 8 characters, giving them commands when it's their turn. The field is divided into a grid, and a character can move a certain number of tiles per turn. When a character's turn arrives, you can move and perform one action in any order. For example, you could move first, then attack, or you can attack first, then move. After you move, you choose a direction to face. Positioning and calculating range is essential for optimal strategy. Each character gains a little experience when they perform an action, and a lot of experience when they land the killing blow. There are different jobs in this game, such as Lord Knight, Paladin, Sniper, High Wizard, and etc. Your job affects what you can equip, what skill you can use, and what job bonus stats you get. On top of basic strategy RPG mechanics, there are a handful of other actions unique to this game. After your character finishes their turn, you could either wait or relax. The relax option will allow your character to sit down and recover some HP and SP at the end of the turn in exchange for slightly delaying your turn. The additional delay penalty for relaxing is very small, and often doesn't affect turn order. Another additional mechanic is the overdrive. The overdrive option allows a character to perform multiple actions in one turn in exchange for burning an overdrive bar. Honestly, I think overdrives are not very useful except for post-game, because the overdrive bar builds too slowly. By the time all the enemies are dead, you barely have a single overdrive bar filled. Let's talk about the burst mechanic. Burst allows 3 characters that are close together to deal heavy damage to all the enemies up to 7 tiles around them. This is useful for both dealing massive damage and also to reach certain enemies that none of your skills reach. However, enemies can also use bursts, so be careful. Let's talk about the game's difficulty. For me, it wasn't that difficult because I was experienced with strategy RPGs and also Ragnarok Online mechanics. If you play effectively, you wouldn't have to grind in order to play through the story. One thing to note is that there is no resurrection, so if a character falls, you can no longer use them until the next mission. Also, if any character from the story falls, it's an automatic game over. You have to be careful of your surroundings to keep your story characters protected. Patience plays a big role in this game. The game doesn't force you to clear the map in a set number of turns, so you shouldn't move a character into enemy range unless you're ready to fight. Also, enemies are evenly spaced and generally stay where they are unless an ally gets into range. However, if you hate waiting, this game might not be for you. This game has a ton of waiting, especially during the animations. Thank goodness you can skip the burst animation by pressing start, but every skill and attack animation are long, and there are a lot of pauses in between actions. There's also no game option to speed up battle. Be prepared to wait a lot between actions. Let's talk about the graphics of the game. The character portraits are extremely well drawn. They are not cel-shaded like traditional anime, but an artful mix between realistic shading and stylistic shading. The maps are also extremely beautiful, with pre-rendered backgrounds with no tiling. Sadly, pre-rendered backgrounds means you cannot rotate the map. Also, you fight in the same few maps again and again, but these maps look among the best for strategy RPGs. The characters are 3D models and they look very nice, with varied poses. I like the music. It's not in the improvisatory and jamming style of Ragnarok Online, but it's very polished, and I can tell that the composer is very skilled. Some people complain about the voice acting because it's squeaky and annoying, but personally, I find it refreshingly humorous. Customizing your character's abilities is a really big deal in Ragnarok Online, so how does it reflect in Ragnarok Tactics? I am pleased to say that you can assign stats after a level up, and just like Ragnarok Online, there are 6 stats: Strength, Agility, Vitality, Intelligence, Dexterity, and Luck. Unlike Ragnarok Online, a huge chunk of your stats come from your job level. Also, unlike Ragnarok Online, it always takes 1 stat point to increase a stat by 1. If you love Ragnarok Online, you'll be glad to know that cards are back, including the original portraits. For those who are not familiar with cards in Ragnarok Online, they are rare drops from monsters that are equipable and give you various benefits like stats or boosts. Finally, you can customize your characters by assigning skill points. Unlike Ragnarok Online, there is no skill tree. You learn a skill when reaching a certain job level, and you can strengthen the skill by spending 1 job point. As a strategy RPG fan and a Ragnarok Online fan, I enjoyed the game. However, I can see how this game is not for everyone, due to a slow battle and its relatively unimpactful story. Basically, if you love strategy RPGs and Ragnarok Online, check it out. If you want, you could watch my playthrough of Ragnarok Tactics on the YouTube playlist in the description below. Thanks for watching and happy gaming!